'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The key to happiness. It's all this one incredibly simple perspective. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. I'm pumped. I'm really excited about this one because I love talking about happiness, fulfillment. I wrote a whole book called Fishing for Happiness. It's on Amazon. I've spent a lot of time thinking about happiness. I spent a lot of time not being happy and kind of searching for that next thing that might give me a quick high to get me happy. And I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about, buying a car or house or, a new girlfriend, whatever it was, or money in my case was a big piece of it. And I was constantly struggling to find happiness. And for those of you that know my story, a big piece of the negative side of things was just constant anxiety. And so I also set out on really a 5-year mission to read every book I could about happiness and overcoming anxiety and bouts of slight depression and money and how to be a good husband and parent and just a good person. So did a lot of search about God and faith and ultimately I wrote the whole journey in this book, Fishing for Happiness. But it was really all about uncovering the keys and kind of I don't want to call them secrets, but really just the things that make people happy in general. Why are some people just seem happier and more fulfilled than others, even though they might not have as much money, might not have any money, right? I've spent some time in Uganda and I met some people that don't have squat. I mean, they barely have a roof over their heads. They don't have running water. They're going down to a river to get their water. And yet they were happy as can be just to be alive and happy to meet me and just happy for every relationship they have. Like, man, these people, they don't know how bad they got it, but yeah, they're happy as can be. But why is it, right? And why are some of us here in America with tons of stuff and money? I mean, heck, you got multimillionaires, billionaires who are getting divorced every month, it seems like. And why can't they find happiness? So I was on this search to really figure this out. And the one thing that always, I don't know that it bothered me, but it was something that I just couldn't put my finger on is why are some people have anxiety? Like me, for instance, I was always asking that question to God in my prayers. Why do I have this? Why doesn't my buddy Jason and Doug and all my other friends, why don't they have? Why is it just me? What am I doing differently? Was I born with it? Why am I inflicted with this anxiety? And there's other people I had that didn't have anxiety, but they were really inflicted with just suffering. I've mentioned on a past podcast, there's one girl in particular, I won't mention her name, but her father passed away way too early, very unexpected. And there is 100% reason to be sad, to mourn, to even have suffering when you lose a loved one, especially like your father, mother, brother, sister, kid, whatever. No one would in a million years say that that's not 100% natural. It'll almost be unnatural not to have any mourning or suffering or even think about them if you love them. But this girl in particular, she literally suffered. I mean, her life went down the tubes, if you will, and just was a constant. You couldn't get through a day of talking to her without her mentioning this. And I'm talking years later, not a week later, not a month later. That's all normal. But when you're still suffering over someone who's been gone for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that's not natural. But I was like, well, why is she inflicted with this when she probably knows deep down that her dad up in heaven did not want her to keep suffering? I'm sure he's probably sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I want to shake you out of this. I want you to go find happiness. Don't keep mourning over me. I've been gone for 7 years. And yet why was she stuck with this? So I tell you all this to kind of give you the problem, if you will, to kind of set the stage for the problem. And yet so many of us continue to struggle with this, and we struggle to be happy every day. And so while I was out, I got an email, and I'm part of this email list. I've mentioned it before, and the guy's really more of a marketing guy, maybe kind of like me. Roy Williams is his name in Texas, but he sends a little newsletter every Monday, and a lot of times it is about marketing and advertising. He's written a few books on it, but he's also a Christian guy, and every once in a while he puts just a zinger in, like I'm talking a good one. And the title of this one was "Don't Worry, Be Happy." It got my attention for obvious reasons. And it starts off, you're gonna love this. It starts off, I'm reading his email to me. "Friend, you are not a good worrier, so you might as well quit." And this is the line right here that I had to read this over multiple times because like this is it. This is the answer. And so it says, "Friend," I'm going to read it again. "Friend, you are not a good warrior, so you might as well quit. You cannot suffer the past or future because they do not exist." Whoa, right? You cannot suffer or be anxious or worry or fear or whatever, the past or the future, because they do not exist. And it's so true, right? The only thing that exists is the present. Right now, this second you are listening to this podcast, this is the only thing that's happening in the present. The past is already the past. It literally doesn't exist. You can't change it. And the future hasn't happened yet. So it literally doesn't exist. So all that being said, and if we know that and believe that, which is tough not to believe it, the only thing that could really exist is right now what we're doing this second, then why are we suffering? And why are we having anxiety about things that might have happened in the past or things that may or may not even happen in the future? We don't know. And that was what I did with my anxiety attacks. I had this fear of all these potential bad things that might happen, and yet they didn't exist. And in most cases, even when the future became the present, it never even happened and never even fulfilled itself. I was worrying about stuff that was just non-existent. And that really took away from my happiness and undermined a lot of my fulfillment in life because I spent so much time just worrying about what might happen and this, and even worrying about and really having anxiety about stuff that happened in the past. And what if this happens again, right? What if I have an anxiety attack like I did at this wedding, right? What if I'm in line at the grocery store and I have an anxiety attack, or someone comes up to me and puts me on the spot and I just start sweating and I have to run out of there embarrassed. I was worrying about stuff that either happened in the past and had nothing to do with my present, or I was worrying about stuff that might happen in the future that really also had nothing to do with how I was going to choose to be happy at this given moment. So he goes on to say, what you are suffering is your memory and your imagination. So think about that. You cannot suffer the past or the future because they do not exist. So what you are suffering from or having anxiety or fear from, it is your memory, right? So my memory of what happened in the past at Publix or at a wedding when I had an anxiety attack, or my imagination. So the imagination is what's in the future, right? You're imagining stuff that might happen in the future. These two sentences here, this is it. I mean, this is really the key, because you can only be happy in the present. You can't be happy in the past, and you can't just be happy in the future. You can't say, "Oh, well, when I make $1 million, then I'm going to be happy," and you can't say, "Oh, I was happy before so and so went out of my life." It doesn't exist. And I think these two sentences here are so critical for us to truly live in the moment, in the present. That's the only time you can have happiness, right? This is to me almost like a revolutionary sentence. I wish I could have put this in my book, Fishing for Happiness. I get to this point, but in two sentences, he really he brings it all and right up in front of your face. You can't ignore this. You cannot suffer the past or future because they do not exist. What you are suffering from or having anxiety or fear from is your memory and or your imagination. Wow. Most of the things you worry about, guys, never come to pass. Ask me how I know. I lived like that for so many years, and it absolutely just wreaked havoc on my happiness, on my life, on having fun. It was a couple of years were just flat out miserable because I was constantly making decisions and worry about, once again, things in my memory, what happened in the past, or things of my imagination, what might happen to me in the future. And I'm willing to bet most of you listening have one of those two things where you either live a little bit too much in the past and think about things that you did wrong or things that happened or even people that you lost, or you're way too much dreaming in the imagination of things that might happen and having anxiety or fears about that. Maybe even you don't do things because of it like I did. I mean, I passed up on opportunities. I ruined a couple of relationships just because of things I was worried about that may or may not happen in the future. And so I'm going to keep reading here. So most of those things you worry about never come to pass. And the majority of those things that do come to pass are inconsequential and unworthy of your worry. They can't be changed, right? No matter how well you worry. And as he started off this whole paragraph, you're not a good worrier, so you might as well quit. No matter how well you worry about something, it is not going to change it. So think about that. Think of all the things that you were, maybe you're worried about something right now. No matter how bad you worry, and I'm going to say to you, friend, you're not a good worrier, so you might as well quit. There's nothing that is going to change by how well you try to be a worrier. I thought that was just so good. This is just once again, one of my favorite emails he sent in a really, really long time. And I'm going to keep going. Of all the things you worry about, only a tiny percentage are worth your worry and can be changed. Very, very small percentage. These things are called things you know you need to do. And you already know the actions you should take. So think about that. A lot of the things that you worry about, most of them are inconsequential and you can't change them. But the things that you can, and I'm going to give you an example here in a second. It's the tiny, very tiny percent of things that you can worry about and can be changed are things you know you need to do, like calling someone to apologize, firing someone in that may work for you, or getting rid of someone in your life, having a really tough conversation. That's the stuff you worry about that can kind of be changed, but you already know what you need to do. You already know the actions you should take, and what's causing worry is because we're procrastinating and putting it off. A colonoscopy is a good one, right? A good example. I had to go get one recently. I did not want to do it. I legitimately had worry over it. I'm going to say it was I earned that worry. But once again, no matter how bad I worried about it, it didn't change the fact that I needed to go get a colonoscopy. You have to do that at certain ages. There's certain things that we all dread, having to go to the doctor, dentist, or whatever. And those are things we worry about. It still doesn't do any good. And as he says, usually the things that cause worry that we have any like even remote kind of control over are things we already know what we need to do, and we know the actions we should take, like booking the appointment for the colonoscopy and showing up for the colonoscopy, or getting a tooth if you're afraid of the dentist or have fear of the dentist, going in and booking the appointment and having this tooth looked at to perhaps have it removed or capped or whatever, or crowned or whatever it is. I know this hopefully this is making sense to you. And I guarantee no matter who you are and where you are in life, there is something that has caused you worry, and maybe even causing you worry right now, that is taking away, once again, from the happiness, from the whole reason I'm doing this podcast is really about the key to happiness. And if you haven't caught on, it's just getting rid of that worry. Friend, you are not a good warrior, so you might as well quit right now. And he went on to say he believes that worry for some of us keeps us from being bored, because we don't want to be bored. We want to be excited. And, fear is a form of excitement. Anger is a form of excitement. Worry is kind of all this stuff is kind of a form of excitement. It gets you wound up, right? You're thinking about it. It gets your brains going. That's the sad part. And he says, have you ever noticed how easy it is to become famous today? All you have to do is spread anger and fear. Wow. Spread it deep and wide. Anger and fear. Keep spreading it. People will treat you like a god. It's so true. I mean, look at all the people that make the news. Look at all from rappers to politicians, etc. It's the people usually that are spreading some sort of anger, fear, etc. that gets people talking. It is so true. And so I believe that worry is a form of that, because it does cause some excitement, and we don't like to be bored. Long story short, the key to happiness is to get rid of that worry. I've had a few things that, have just worried me with, kids, and maybe I'll do a whole nother podcast about some of that. I got to be careful, just for my own kids' sake about what I share. But we all have things in when you look at Facebook and Instagram, you might think, oh, they're just perfect, but they're all struggling from little things. And, as a parent, you're trying to do its best. I'm always trying to balance letting my kids kind of fail, if you will, to learn from it, and also still trying to protect them a little bit. And I think that's one of the toughest things for a parent, is not to want to come in and help your kids. But I always take it back to God, right? The most impactful things in my life today, as I'm recording this, have been dealing with cancer, and these are the things, meaning, that have literally changed my life and made me stronger. It was going through the cancer, which made me completely change my perspective on life and God, and even just the kind of the infatuation I had with money and collecting it. And the other one, was the anxiety. I mean, that was something that went on forever. And I know God let me suffer through that and kind of struggle with it for a reason. And I'm sure as a father, we would all love to just give our kids whatever, a pill or whatever, snap your fingers and have, whether it be anxiety or depression or whatever, just gone. And yet, looking back, I could say now as an adult, like, that was the most impactful thing that I had to kind of go through to figure out a little bit more about me, and to figure out what happiness and fulfillment and in my relationship with God really was. And so I'm constantly struggling with that. And meaning, this is the stuff that causes me worry. It's mostly about family stuff now. And, at some point I have to just pray and record. There's a reason I record these UNCHURCHED. It's not just for you. A lot of this is for me as well. I'm struggling with some of this worry stuff is what I'm letting you in on. And as I said, a lot of it is with the family stuff. And so I'm always trying to balance it out. I'm trying to pray to God as much as I possibly can, and speak with him, and have kind of a walk with God is what I call it. And sometimes it is literally me just walking around the house or the property. Sometimes it's just sitting out in the dock and praying and listening. And usually it comes back to the same kind of message. I mean, heck, even I pray for messages, and I got this in my inbox. Don't worry, be happy. Half the time I don't even read all of his emails. But this was one I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. And right off the bat, friend, you are not a good worrier. I love this. So you might as well quit. And that's my message to you. Stop worrying. Focus on what you can control, which is right now, here today, in the present. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. So if you're suffering or having fear or anxiety, it doesn't exist. It's either in your memory in the past, or it's in your imagination in the future. And I think if we can just remember those two sentences there, we will all be so much better off. I think this is so powerful. I know if you're listening to this, you're one of the people I was praying over before this. I started this podcast 4 times, just so you know, 4 different times. And then I would get like tongue-tied and it didn't feel right. And guess what? No lie, 4 times. And I finally realized, like, why am I struggling to get the words out? I never struggle. I don't ever do like extra takes. I don't edit these. They're all just me talking. And I 4 times, like, what the heck? And I was like, I didn't pray. Before every single one, I'd pray. And I was in a rush. I was worrying about stuff I have to do, right? And I just went into it without my normal prayer. Normally I close my eyes and I just take some breaths and I pray, God, speak through me. And let this message hit exactly who you're trying to reach right now. And I completely forgot. As soon as I did that, you're hearing now what happened. As soon as I literally stopped, I stopped the whole thing. Records off. I kept my headphones on, and I just said that quick prayer, and then I hit record again. And now you're hearing what happened after going 4 times of me butchering it. So wow, isn't that powerful? So love you guys. Hope you enjoy this one. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. We can learn from the past. We can plan for and try to help create a better future, but all that happens in the present. So love you guys. Hope this is helpful. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this one, are there any other things you want me to cover? My email, joe@saltstrong.com. Don't worry. Be happy. Booyah.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.